Hello all, this is Barbara Mann from Your Empowered You, and welcome to our two-part video series on the most common topics that I have in my coaching sessions for leaders and for individual contributors. So in this first part, we are going to be talking about the most common discussions that I have for leaders. And then in our second video, we'll be talking about the most common topics that we have for individual contributors. So before we talk about the most common topics for leaders, I do want to just briefly summarize the structure of a coaching session with me. So this looks the same regardless of what group you're in, individual contributor or leader. Basically a 1-hour call done via telephone, video chat, webinar, whatever the client's most comfortable with. And it starts off with me just introducing who I am, what my experience is, what my role is as the coach and mentor, what the expectations are from both the client's perspective and my perspective. Obviously, I need to understand what the expectations are of the client to make sure that we fulfill that by the end of our time together. I like to know, before we even talk about what the topic is, what I can help them with, what I like to know is what are their core values. So their core values are very important to me. So, it's things like, is it honesty? Is it integrity? Is it family? Is it work-life balance? Because that helps facilitate the discussion to make sure it's aligned. Any kind of decisions you're making or any type of issue that you're working on, is it aligned with your core values? When you're aligned with your core values, it just makes your decisions, your career, any aspect of life much more easy. So that alignment is key with those core values. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of the discussion. So obviously there's a lot of listening on my part. I do interject with questions, interject with suggestions, perspectives, tools and tips, things of that nature. And oftentimes the discussion where we think it could be one thing, it may lead into something else. That's very common, obviously. And at the end of the session, I go ahead and summarize and send that to the client. And that's kind of how it works for every single client, whether you're an individual contributor or leader. So what are the common discussions that I have with managers? Probably no surprise, relationship building with the team members. That's critical. Obviously, that is imperative. If you don't have a good relationship with your team members, you're probably not going to be very successful. So a lot of what we chat about is effective communication, because that is critical. How do you communicate with the team? How receptive are they to your communication? How often do you communicate? Verbal, nonverbal, all those sorts of things. So we talk a lot about effective and productive communication with the team members. We also talk about the difficult employee. That's very common that a manager may have a perceived difficult employee, and really what I help coach them through is trying to understand what makes that employee difficult, because I can tell you more often than not, that difficult employee could be your greatest asset, and to leverage that difficult employee to really help the team, to help the manager, to help the company. Those difficult employees are sometimes the greatest gifts that you can have. So we really try to coach, I really try to coach through that and kind of change that perspective and offer some different strategies. Another common topic is meeting expectations, because the manager is not the frontline person doing the particular tasks anymore. They're having to lead the team to meet the expectations for both their team members and the team as a whole. So that's obviously a common discussion that we have, and work through how we can ensure everybody meets those expectations. Sometimes your team is humming along, they're meeting the expectations, but they're not necessarily as motivated as you would like. So understanding what motivates each of the team members, because everybody is different, everybody's motivated by something different, and making sure they're in touch with that, because some people could be motivated by money, some people could be motivated by career advancement, some people could be motivated by career engagement. It looks differently to different people, but understanding what motivates our team is important, because if you don't understand that, most likely people are going to get a little bored, they're going to look for other positions, things of that nature. Another common topic, which is probably no surprise, is having difficult conversations with the team members. So this is a topic that a lot of managers dread. I did actually a recent video on how to have productive conversations that are difficult in nature. And really, if these are done correctly, these can be the most productive, powerful conversations that really can build trust between a manager and their team member if they're done correctly. And the bottom line is that what helps facilitate these kinds of conversations, if a manager really comes from a place of really wanting to help, really wanting to support and make sure that any kind of gaps are identified to help the employee to succeed. And when you come from that place, it makes conversations much more easy to facilitate and be productive. Another common topic is change management. So we know that in any organization there's going to be change, and one of the key roles of a leader is facilitating and making sure that change management is effective for their team. Some managers think that change management might just look like they're communicating the change verbally and they expect everyone to embrace it, and if they don't, then it's a problem. Well, it's a problem because change management obviously is much more in depth than just communicating that change. It's about circling back. It's about understanding how people are embracing the change. It's not one conversation. It's many conversations. It's circling back many times and making sure you're checking in with everybody. Everybody handles change differently. It's kind of like motivation. Everybody is different. So understanding and giving tools and strategies on change management is obviously a common topic that we chat about. Another common topic is the manager feeling empowered, feeling trusted, having the autonomy to make decisions. And this is common for what the manager may feel that they're not as empowered as they would like from their manager, but also that their team doesn't feel that they're empowered to make decisions, and they don't necessarily feel that the manager is trusting them. So it's coming sometimes from both ends, and we work through strategies and suggestions on how to really feel more empowered, for your team to feel empowered, and how your manager can help the manager feel more empowered and trust and not be micromanaged. Nobody likes to be micromanaged. Then the last topic, most common, the last topic that's most common is the relationship with their manager. That's a common one. Is not having a flourishing and healthy relationship with their manager. It comes down to how comfortable do you feel talking to your manager? Is it effective communication? Communication is really the crux of most of the issues. Are the goals communicated clearly? Do they understand what the goals are? Do they feel valued? A lot of times that's a relationship with their manager. And really a Cliff Note version of really what we want to circle back to is, how do they want their team members to feel about them? Do they want them to feel that they can come to them regarding any issue? If the answer is yes, then that should be the same relationship that they have with their manager. And a lot of that comes down to with either with the manager communicating what their expectations are of their direct manager. The more that you can effectively communicate expectations or how you want to be managed, the better the relationship is. So we talk a lot about relationships building with their manager, and that's an important one. You really want to have obviously a great relationship with not just your team members, but also your director manager. So those are the most common topics that I tend to have. So some of those key points, it's relationships are key. Relationships between the manager and their team, and between the manager and their direct manager. Effective and productive communication, that is super important. That's what it all is coming down to, is how well are we communicating? Are we open? Are we honest? Are we transparent? Are we instilling trust to the team members and to direct reports? Is it empowering? Do we have autonomy? Those are the kind of the key root causes of most of the issues that we tend to discuss with managers. So if you're a manager, probably some of these things resonate. For additional resources, because I've done other videos that touch upon some of these topics already, for additional resources or to schedule a session with me, love to work with leaders and individual contributors, please visit my website at www.youремpoweredyou.com. You can email me at bman@youремpoweredyou.com, or you can give me a ring at 916-633-2555. And thank you very much, and I hope you have a very empowered day.